Greetings, folks. My name is Rod Machado, and I'd like to introduce you to my new e-learning-based instrument pilot ground school. If you're thinking about earning an instrument rating, and I hope that you are, or thinking about updating your knowledge of instrument flying, then my newest e-learning course will help you accomplish either of those objectives. This new course not only prepares you for the instrument pilot knowledge exam, it also helps prepare you for the oral exam and the knowledge you need to fly IFR safely. Now, if you're already an instrument-rated pilot, then this course prepares you for the instrument pilot proficiency check, should you need one, as well as raises your knowledge level to that of a skilled instrument pilot. And since this course is always kept current, you can return to it at any time to obtain the latest information on instrument flying. What makes this course different from other aviation training programs is that it is very comprehensive. Very comprehensive. Did I say comprehensive? Well, it is. In fact, the material covered in this online course is what you typically expect to cover in a full college semester instrument ground school, and that, my friends, is a lot of training. What makes this course unique is its extensive use of animation to explain complex topics in a way that makes them easy to understand and retain. It also goes further than your traditional ground school in that it offers deeper and more thorough explanations into the many different aspects of instrument flying. For instance, whenever I present a topic, I'll do my best to provide the underlying reasons, the educational connective tissue, if you will, that support the topic instead of just presenting the topic and saying, deal with it. After all, when instructors do that, students just sit there like a dog looking at a fan. Well, I don't want you to have that experience. I've designed this course to engage you and to allow you to have fun learning. So sit back, strap in, hang on, and let's take a look at a few excerpts from this course. Finally, may your ILS approaches never look like sword fights at a samurai convention. Causing the gyro to spin, thus remaining rigid in space. Then the air is drawn downward below the spinning gyro where it passes through 4 exhaust ports that are equally spaced from each other at 90-degree angles. From here, the air is sucked into the vacuum pump and then discharged. Each of the 4 ports is partially covered by a pendulous vane arrangement. Thus, small but equal amounts of air are always partially escaping from each port. These vanes, however, can swing slightly like a clock's pendulum, thus varying the amount of air escaping from each port. It will be a route leading to the approach procedure. In both situations, pilots are sometimes confused as to how low they can go when ATC issues those magic words, cleared for the approach. So here's the skinny on this important point. According to FAR 91175 Subpart I, when radar vectors are used to take you to a portion of an instrument approach procedure, you will most likely not be operating on any published route, and that's one showing a minimum altitude, direction, and distance. When this happens and you receive an approach clearance, maintain the last altitude you were given until you are established on a segment of a published route or instrument approach procedure, provided that air traffic control hasn't assigned you a different altitude in the interim. Overlap the decoder's intersection with whisk and assure that the decoder's holding pattern matches the correct direction of the drawn pattern on the chart. If you were approaching whisk from the east on Victor 78, position B, the decoder says a direct entry would be the appropriate way to engage the pattern. Approaching from the west on Victor 78 calls for a parallel entry, position C. Approaching whisk from the northeast on Victor 13, position D, calls for a direct entry. If you're on a northerly or southerly heading and bank the airplane to the right, the compass card can't tilt very much in its housing. Thus, the pendulum effect can no longer correct for magnetic dip. In other words, it can't pull the card straight down parallel with the Earth. As a result, a right-hand turn from a northerly heading results in the compass needle attempting to align itself with the dipping line of magnetic flux. This results in the card swinging clockwise, giving you the impression that you are undershooting the heading you are actually on. In other words, in a right turn, the compass indicates about 330 degrees while you're actually on a heading of north. After rolling out, the turning error disappears. If the minimum altitude of the initial approach route below is 6,200 feet MSL, you certainly don't want to fly directly inbound without descending to the initial approach altitude first. Doing so will place the airplane way too high for a normal approach descent. This is why the regulation says to commence descent or descent and approach at the expect further clearance time given in this example. So, at 1330, you descend in the holding pattern to 6,200 feet, then proceed inbound on the approach from Mondo. Furthermore, if the straight-in runway's 20-to-1 surface is penetrated by obstacles, a VDP will not be established for that airport. In other words, it won't be published on that chart, and the visibility will be set at a minimum of 1 mile. Therefore, if a straight-in approach has a visibility minimum of 1 mile and no VDP, it's reasonable to assume that obstacles might lurk close to you along and below your descent path on the VDA. Just when you thought you could sit back, relax, and activate the chair massaging unit you had installed in your Cessna, air traffic control decides to revise your route. Your clearance now reads Gorman, direct Durb intersection, direct Avenal VOR with the rest of the route unchanged. The question is, how do you remove Fellows VOR from your flight plan and insert and activate a route to Durb intersection? The first thing to do is to consider your priorities. Air traffic control wants you to head to Durb intersection now, not later. In these situations, it's often best to ask air traffic control for an initial heading to Durb intersection, assuming you're in radar contact and above the controller's MIA or MVA. This gets you headed in the right direction, pronto, allowing you to modify your flight planned route in a more relaxed, less hurried manner. Relaxed because I know you're using Cessna's massage chair, don't deny it. Next, open the flight plan window to view your routing. You're presently heading to Fellows VOR, and Durb intersection is somewhere between you and Avenal VOR. Your strategy should be to remove Fellows from the flight planned route, then insert Durb intersection before Avenal VOR. So use your cursor to highlight Fellows, push the clear key, and press Enter at the request to remove Fellows. Fellows should be completely removed from the flight plan. Now you want to insert Durb intersection between Gorman VOR and Avenal VOR. You can do this the same way you did previously by using the cursor to highlight the waypoint just after the point where you want to insert your new waypoint. And it should be clear by now that route modifications and route leg activations begin with highlighting the endpoint of that route segment.